In 1823, a fur trapper named Hugh Glass was mauled by a grizzly bear in what is now South Dakota. His scalp was torn off, his leg was broken, his back was shredded down to the ribs. His own party left him for dead in a shallow grave. 6 weeks later, Glass crawled into Fort Kiowa, 200 miles, through hostile Sioux territory, eating roots, maggots, and a buffalo carcass he had chased wolves off of. Today, for a year, modern preppers with $1,000 bug-out bags die within 72 hours of being lost in the woods. So how did men like Hugh Glass survive 20 years in the Rocky Mountains with nothing but a knife, a rifle, and a horse, while a guy with a Garmin and a tactical backpack dies on a weekend hike? The answer is going to make every prepper channel on YouTube very uncomfortable. To understand the gap, you need to understand who these men actually were. The mountain men weren't soldiers. They weren't explorers in the romantic sense. They were trappers. From roughly 1810 to 1840, companies like the Rocky Mountain Fur Company sent small groups of men deep into the Rockies to harvest beaver pelts for the European hat trade. Names like Jim Bridger, Jedediah Smith, John Coulter, and Kit Carson became legends not because they were stronger or smarter than other men. They became legends because they survived. The wilderness from Montana down through Colorado was, by any honest measure, the most lethal environment in North America. Grizzly bears, hostile tribes during certain conflicts, blizzards that dropped temperatures to 40 below, rivers that swallowed men whole, and disease that killed without warning. The average mountain man spent 15 to 20 years in this environment. Some, like Bridger, spent over 40 years. Compare that to today. The average modern prepper who owns a $5,000 gear loadout and watches every survival channel on YouTube would not last a month, probably not a week. And the reason is not bad luck. It is the first lethal mistake. Gear obsession. Walk into any prepper convention and you'll see grown men with 80-pound bug-out bags, tactical knives, solar chargers, water filters that cost more than rent, freeze-dried meals stacked in basements, multi-tools with 37 functions. Now here is what a mountain man carried into the Rockies for a year-long expedition: a flintlock rifle, a possibles bag with flint, steel, lead, and powder, a knife, a tomahawk, a wool blanket, maybe an extra pair of moccasins, a small kettle. The whole loadout weighed under 30 pounds. That's it. The reason mountain men carried less wasn't because they were tough. It was because they understood something modern preppers refuse to accept. Gear does not keep you alive. Knowledge keeps you alive. And every pound of gear you carry is a pound of energy you're burning to haul it. In the Rockies, energy is currency. You spend it on warmth, on hunting, on travel. Burn too much hauling a 60-pound pack uphill at altitude, and you're dead before you find dinner. There is a phrase the mountain men used. They called extra gear plunder. It was dead weight that slowed you down and gave you nothing in return. The men who hauled too much plunder did not come back for the next season. The wilderness sorted them out fast. But the second mistake is even worse. Food. Modern survival content loves to talk about meals, ready to eat, and freeze-dried meals. The problem is that humans in extreme cold environments need 4,000 to 6,000 calories per day just to survive. A mountain man in the middle of a Wyoming winter at altitude could burn 7,000 calories in a single day of trapping. Try maintaining that on freeze-dried lasagna. You will starve while your stomach is full. The mountain men solved this with pemmican, dried buffalo or elk meat, pounded into powder, mixed with rendered fat and sometimes berries, then sealed in rawhide pouches. Pemmican delivers roughly 3,000 calories per pound and keeps for years without refrigeration. A mountain man could carry 10 pounds of pemmican and have a month of survival food in the same space modern preppers use for 2 days of meals ready to eat. But pemmican was not the real food strategy. Pemmican was the backup. The real strategy was hunting and trapping every single day. Mountain men did not pack food for a year. They packed enough to bridge the gaps between successful hunts. They knew what plants were edible in spring, where deer bedded down in summer, how to read fish behavior in mountain streams, and how to follow ravens to fresh kills. Modern preppers who talk about living off the land usually mean eating their stockpile. Mountain men actually did it. There is a story about Jedediah Smith leading a party across the Mojave Desert in 1827. They ran out of food 3 days into a brutal stretch of dry country. Smith had his men dig up wild onions, eat the inner bark of cottonwood trees, and chase down a tortoise to stretch their meat ration. They walked another week on what most modern survivalists would not recognize as food. Every man made it through alive. That is not gear. That is knowledge that took years to accumulate. Then there's fire. Walk into any outdoor store and you'll find a wall of lighters, ferro rods, fire starters, and waterproof matches. The dirty secret is that none of that matters if you don't know how to build a fire in conditions that fight you. A mountain man could start a fire in a sleet storm using flint, steel, and char cloth. He knew which woods burned wet, where to find dry tinder under fallen logs, how to dig fire pits that would not be smothered by snow, and how to build a fire reflector wall that turned a small flame into all-night warmth. Modern preppers carry one Bic lighter and assume that's enough. Then they get caught in a rainstorm at 6,000 feet. Their lighter gets soaked, their hands go numb, and they discover that having a tool is not the same as having a skill. The mountain men understood this in a way that has been completely forgotten. Tools fail, skills do not. Now here's where it gets interesting. The single biggest reason mountain men survived wasn't fire, food, or gear. It was their ability to read the land. Jim Bridger could look at a valley he'd never seen before and tell you where the water was, where the game would be, where the safest passes ran, and where storms would come from. He couldn't read a written word until late in life, but he could read a mountain range like a book. This wasn't magic. It was thousands of hours of pattern recognition. He knew that aspens grow where there's water within a few feet of the surface. He knew that the lee side of a ridge would be where elk bedded in winter. He knew that raven circling meant carrion, which meant predators, which meant either food or danger, depending on the situation. Modern preppers depend on GPS, topographic apps, and digital maps. The moment the battery dies or the satellite signal cuts out at high altitude, they're functionally blind. Mountain men carried the map in their head, and the map updated itself every time they walked through the country. This skill, called Woodcraft, takes years to develop. You can't download it. You can't buy it at REI. You can only earn it by being out there, miserable, cold, hungry, and paying attention. There is a story about Bridger guiding a wagon train through Wyoming territory in the 1850s. The party leader insisted on taking what looked like an obvious shortcut through a green valley. Bridger told him no. He said the valley was a death trap because the snow there came down hard in early storms, and there was no way out the south end. The party leader ignored him and took the route anyway. Within 3 days, the wagons were buried. Oxen were freezing, and Bridger had to lead a rescue party in to pull them out. Bridger had never been in that exact valley before. He just understood how the land worked. A weekend warrior in modern bushcraft gear has never spent enough time outside to develop that kind of awareness. But the most important factor that kept mountain men alive for decades is the one nobody wants to talk about. They weren't alone. Hollywood loves the lone wolf survival story. The grizzled mountain man riding solo through the wilderness depending on no one. It's a beautiful image. It's also almost entirely fiction. The real mountain men survived because of relationships with indigenous tribes: Crow, Shoshone, Flathead, Nez Perce, and others. Many mountain men, including Jim Bridger, had native wives. They traded furs for food, knowledge, protection, and shelter. They learned which plants healed wounds, which herbs prevented infection, how to tan hides in extreme cold, and how to navigate by stars in unfamiliar terrain. A mountain man without tribal allies in his territory was a dead man walking. The tribes had thousands of years of accumulated survival knowledge in those mountains. Trying to compete with that knowledge as a lone outsider was suicide. Modern preppers fantasize about going it alone, about bugging out to a cabin and depending on nobody. The mountain men would have laughed at this. Survival in any environment has always been a social skill. The ones who refused to build relationships died first. Jim Beckworth, a free black man who became one of the most successful mountain men in the West, was adopted into the Crow tribe and eventually became a war chief. He spent years living in Crow villages, hunting buffalo with them, raiding alongside them, and learning every survival skill the tribe had refined over generations. When he wrote his memoirs decades later, he gave full credit to the Crow people for everything that kept him alive in the mountains. That kind of humility is almost completely absent from modern survival culture. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. I cover the brutal reality of frontier life every week. Now let's talk about cold weather. The American Rockies in winter are not a survival challenge. They are a death sentence for the unprepared. Temperatures regularly drop to 30 or 40 below zero. Wind chill can cause exposed skin to get frostbite in under 5 minutes. Snow accumulates to 8 feet in some valleys. The sun drops behind the peaks by mid-afternoon, plunging the landscape into a deep cold that lasts 16 hours. Mountain men handled this with a clothing system that modern outdoor companies are still trying to replicate. The base layer was wool, which retains heat even when wet. Over that, they wore buckskin, treated with brain tanning and smoke to make it weather resistant. Their coats were buffalo hide with the hair turned inward. Their hats were beaver fur or fox. Their moccasins were doubled, stuffed with dry grass for insulation, and oiled regularly. Compare that to a modern prepper wearing synthetic Gore-Tex and polyester fleece. Synthetic fabrics fail catastrophically in real cold. They can melt against skin if a spark hits them. They lose insulation when compressed, and they become brittle below zero. The clothing systems that work in a Patagonia catalog photo do not work in actual mountain winter. The mountain men also knew how to build a shelter in under 2 hours, not a tent. A real shelter. Lean-tos backed against a rock face with a fire reflector wall and a thick bough roof. Snow caves dug on the leeward side of drifts. Improvised wickiups made from saplings and bark. These shelters could keep a man alive at 30 below with nothing but body heat and a small fire. There is a technique the mountain men used called the long fire. Instead of a small campfire, they would build a fire roughly the length of their body, then sleep alongside it on a bed of pine boughs with a reflector wall on the opposite side. The fire would burn for hours, throw heat against the wall, and bounce that heat back onto the sleeping man. A skilled trapper could sleep through a blizzard at 20 below using nothing but this setup. Modern preppers carry tents. Tents are good for one thing: camping. They are not survival shelters. A tent in a real Rocky Mountain blizzard will collapse, tear, or fail to retain enough heat to keep you alive overnight. But all of this, the gear, the food, the fire, the woodcraft, the relationships, the shelter, none of it matters without the final piece: the mental game. Hugh Glass crawled 200 miles with a broken leg and his back ripped open. He had every reason to die. He chose not to. This is the part of mountain man survival that cannot be taught with any amount of equipment. It's the willingness to keep moving when your body is screaming at you to stop. It's the ability to be alone for months without losing your mind. It's the capacity to endure pain, cold, hunger, and fear without breaking. Modern life has produced men who panic when their phone dies for an hour. Men who can't sit alone with their thoughts for 10 minutes. Men who treat mild discomfort like an emergency. The mountain men were forged in a world where comfort was a luxury you earned at the end of a long, brutal day, if you earned it at all. You cannot prepper shop your way to that kind of mind. You can't buy it. You can only build it through hardship. Consider John Coulter. He was caught by a Blackfoot war party in 1808, stripped naked, and given a head start before the warriors hunted him for sport. Coulter ran for 7 miles across rocky ground in bare feet, killed a pursuing warrior with his own spear, and then hid underwater inside a beaver dam while the rest of the war party searched for him. He walked over 200 miles back to the nearest fort, naked, sunburned, and barely alive. He showed up 11 days later asking for food. Then he went back into the mountains the next season. That's a kind of resilience that doesn't exist in a Costco prepper bunker. And here's the part that should make every modern survivalist uncomfortable. The mountain men had no special training. They were not ex-military. Most were teenage runaways or broke immigrants who learned everything on the job. The ones who lived adapted. The ones who did not died fast. There was no YouTube, no Instagram bushcraft channel, no tactical training course. There was only the wilderness, the people who had survived it before you, and your own willingness to learn. So what does this actually mean for the modern world? Almost nobody watching this will ever face a true survival situation, and that is the honest truth. The lights stay on, the grocery store stays stocked, and the roads stay open for the vast majority of human lives now. But the mountain men reveal something important about human capability that modern life has hidden from us. Skill beats gear, knowledge beats equipment, relationships beat isolation, mental toughness beats every gadget in the catalog. The reason modern preppers die in days where mountain men lived for decades is not that the wilderness has gotten harder, it is that we have gotten softer, and we have replaced the slow, painful work of building real skills with the quick dopamine hit of buying new gear. Hugh Glass did not have a survival kit. He had decades of skill, a knife, and a refusal to die. Jim Bridger did not have a GPS. He had a memory of every river, valley, and mountain pass between Mexico and Canada. Jedediah Smith did not have an emergency beacon. He had relationships with tribes from California to Wyoming and the wisdom to keep them. The lesson is not that you need to become a mountain man. The lesson is that the path to real capability runs through discomfort, repetition, and humility, not through Amazon orders. If you want to actually survive something hard one day, put down the gear catalog, spend a weekend in the woods with less than you think you need. Learn one skill until you are embarrassed at how long it took. Build one relationship with someone who knows more than you do. Get cold, get hungry, get bored. Start small. Learn to start a fire with a ferro rod in the rain before you buy your 5th knife. Learn to identify 3 edible plants in your local woods before you stockpile another year of MRES. Spend one night outside with just a wool blanket before you spend $2,000 on a tactical sleep system. The mountain men did not become legends by buying their way to capability. They became legends by spending years uncomfortable, asking questions, and refusing to quit. That is how the mountain men did it. That is how anyone has ever done it. The wilderness has not changed. We have. And the men who lived in those mountains for 20 years are still trying to tell us something if we are willing to listen.